Hello everyone, once again we are going to have some fun pitting these two ships up against each other. You all know the pattern, so I won't even be getting too deeply into the explanations in this video. Now enjoy and may the force be with you. First, why don't we start out with the usual things, being the introduction of these two ships. The MC80 Home 1 type star cruiser was a ship that in the beginning was built by the Mon Calamari shipyards above the planet of Mon Calamari, or as it was named in their native tongue, DAC, spelled D-A-C. It was built for deep space exploration and research, and when Darth Sidious discovered the Mon Calamari ships and that they were capable of posing an actual threat to the Imperial-class Star Destroyers and Victory-class Star Destroyers, Darth Sidious sent an Imperial fleet to suppress the Mon Calamari and keep their ships in docks to neutralize the threat. Later, the plan backfired and the Mon Calamari ships were fitted into becoming warships for the Alliance to restore the Republic, also known as the Rebel Alliance as it was mostly referred to as. The ships continued to serve far into the years of the New Republic under Admiral G.L. Akbar as his chosen class of flagship and command ship, until he switched it out with the much stronger Defiance of the MC80 class. The Aggressor class Star Destroyer was a ship that was in service to the San Consortium during the time of the Galactic Civil War. The main phrase from the game in which it is first set to appear says, "Need a really big gun," and that really big gun was to be taken serious. This thing caused major headaches for both the Rebel Alliance and the Empire as well as the Hutts. However, they were very expensive and not many of them were made. Furthermore, it also wasn't very versatile, and so it was limited in how well it would be used in some situations. Now, let's take the usual look at their general terms and aspects. The Home 1 and her sisters formed a uniform design type. Cylindrical hulls with a tapered bow, hangar amidships, and a bulbous stern mounting 10 huge sublight thrusters. The Home 1 class of ship often caused a massive headache for Rebel technicians and engineers, as no single MC80 class of ship was identical to the next. That also included the MC80 Liberty type, Wingless type, and MC80B type. So, Rebel crews had to be specifically assigned to each one of the MC80 class ships, otherwise some things would no doubt malfunction if they began tampering with it. Usually though, most of the technicians and engineers were of Mon Calamari descent, but it wasn't unusual for other species than humans to also be part of the MC's crews. The ship also varied in size, which for a 100% unique ship wasn't very unusual. The Home 1 type had a crew of 5,402 members, including 78 gunners. However, a skeletal crew of 1,230 could manage the ship if necessary. Also, it carried 1,200 passengers, 20,000 tons worth of cargo, and 2 years worth of consumables. The Aggressor class Star Destroyer was originally designed for usage by the Empire. However, things obviously didn't go that way. One of the reasons is that the fact that the schematics and plans for the Aggressor class was hidden deep inside the first Death Star, which as we all know went kaboomovich after the Battle of Yavin. However, the plans were stored in safety pods that were scattered around the debris field after the battle, which were later picked up by Tiber Zahn. Tiber Zahn hated the Empire, and he hated the Hutts as well, especially Jabba the Hutt. However, at this time he wasn't near powerful enough to yet really put up a fighting chance, which is one of the reasons why he went for some of these plans, hoping that he could find something of use, and boy did he achieve success. The ship was nearly as long as the Imperial class, so I'd estimate it was around 14 to 1500 meters in length. However, that's not really specified. We can estimate that the Aggressor class can carry about 20,000 tons of cargo and 2 years worth of consumables. However, that's pure speculation from my side, but 2 years are very standard within the Star Wars universe, so that's what we'll go with. Which ship is winning this category, you might ask? Honestly, I have no idea. The Home 1 is unique for every ship in its class, and the Aggressor is the same through and through. But those two traits have the pros and cons. However, for me, it really is impossible to give either of these two ships the edge, so they will be declared equals in general terms and aspects. Now on to speed and maneuvering. The MC80 Home 1 type of ships were the mainstay of the Rebel Alliance fleet, and that was saying something. They were capable of going head-to-head with Imperial-class Star Destroyers, hence why Darth Sidious actually feared these ships becoming potential threats towards the Empire should the ships fall into the wrong or right hands, depending on your perspective. First, the Empire tried to convert the ships into being usable for normal human crews. The Mon Calamari, however, did everything in their powers to sabotage any Imperial plans with these ships, hence why the Empire decided to block the planet of Mon Calamari altogether. The MC80 classes of ships were all the way through made to be handled by all Mon Calamari personnel, at least when it came to officers' positions. These ships were between 1,200 and 1,400 meters long, but again, as they were all unique, even their size varied, and that was only for the Home 1 in this case, and while it is the same with all the other MC80 classes of ships, then they're not really too relevant currently, but still worthy of a mention. They were capable of flying with 2,700 to 2,750 g by maximum acceleration, and could fly with about 950 km per hour in atmosphere. I'm putting it up along with the MC80 Liberty in this case for reference, just if you're wondering. The reason for that is that while it is not specifically stated by my main source, I have seen it from my main source in the past, and with that, the Home 1 has a Class 1 hyperdrive and a Class 9 backup. For its size, the Home 1 was very maneuverable, with about 60% of its engine power being diverted towards its maneuvering engines that would make the ship vastly more maneuverable than any Imperial-class Star Destroyer. With the Aggressor class, we're quite literally at an impasse. In all honesty, it doesn't really specify anywhere what kind of hyperdrive the Aggressor has. However, we know that the Aggressor class is very cumbersome, and so just like with the Imperial Star Destroyers, I'm assuming that it has a Class 2 hyperdrive and a Class 8 for backup, which, while not terrible, it isn't amazing either. It has 4 bigger engine units being mounted centrally on the ship above one another. Then it has 4 more, 2 on the port and 2 on the starboard sides, which I am strongly assuming are meant for maneuvering. The effectiveness of that maneuvering, on the other hand, is rather questionable. Now with that said, and since these ships were designed for the Empire's fleet originally, I'm also going to assume that it has the same speed and maneuvering abilities to that of an Imperial Star Destroyer, being about 2,300 g per maximum acceleration and about 950 km per hour in atmosphere. Which, while again not terrible, isn't super amazing either. However, I would say that it's pretty average. So, in terms of speed and maneuvering, due to us not at all or in any way having much information about the Aggressor class Star Destroyer, I'd have to without a question give this category to the Home 1. However, that is not the only reason why, and before you jump at me like a pack of hungry Gundarks from Vancouver, then let me explain. The Home 1 is 400 g faster and about as maneuverable as a ship can be in its own right. Or at least as maneuverable as this ship can be compared to its size. And slightly shorter than the Aggressor class, if we go by my assumptions at least, and my source. So from all this, I've got to give the Home 1 the victory. Now to compare them in their Kaboomovich power and punch to the chin absorption abilities, also referred to as offensive and defensive capabilities, mind you. The Home 1 was armed with 36 turbolasers and 36 heavy ion cannons, 6 tractor beam projectors, as well as having a hangar with space for an average of 120 fighters of the various A, B, X, and Y wings, and would later in terms of the New Republic also carry E wings and K wings. All those fighters were better than anything that the Empire had available, as well as the pilots often being of superior skills to those of the Empire, with the exception of those pilots flying the TIE interceptors. However, direct numbers are not specified when it comes to the Rebel fighters, but I think it is safe to say that X-Wings were mostly represented in the hangars of the Home 1 type of ships. Now, this next thing might actually be surprising to some, but let me elaborate. The Home 1 type of ships does not have any normal laser cannons, nor does it have any point defense cannons. So, you may wonder, how does it shoot down enemy fighters, should it in fact be swarmed? Turbolasers are normally really bad at targeting fighters and bombers, but the Mon Calamari ships in general were undergunned compared to the ships of the Empire, so they had to resort to other ways to take down Imperial ships. But how? They had top-notch superior targeting systems. Even the turbolasers were capable of shooting down fighters with the same precisions that point defense cannons had. Well, almost. Another typical thing for the Mon Calamari ships were their outstanding and vastly superior shielding capabilities. They were very well beyond anything that the Empire had, and several layers plus layers of backup shielding. The Mon Calamari ships in general were huge flying punching bags. They could take direct punches to the chin and give them back in full force. Another reason why Sidious feared the potential of these ships, and he really did have good reason to, as the Battle of Endor solidified his concerns. When the ships were refitted from space exploration to warships, their hulls were strengthened tenfold, and so they were even capable of taking the hits should their shields, however unlikely, be taken down. Hull upgrades, weapons emplacements, and shield upgrades were all fitted to the Home 1 along with other MC80 ships to make these real viable threats to the Empire, and they could barely have done any better. Now, this is where the Aggressor gets really interesting because it has only 4 weapons. Yes, you heard correctly. 4 freaking weapons. Now, you're probably wondering how it could possibly stack up to the arsenal of weapons that the MC80 Home 1 has, right? Well, let me tell you, it had a massive ion cannon and massive plasma cannon that were linked in the nose. On the top of that, it also had 2 single turbo lasers on each side for defense. However, without a fighter escort, it didn't really get very far with only this. However, it's a pure ship-to-ship combat match, so it was deadly for any enemy and is very relevant in this matchup. The ion cannon fired first, and hopefully it would hit the target to take down the shields, followed up immediately by the massive plasma blast that would do some massive damage. A few of those blasts would tear through any ship, and even if the plasma blast didn't tear through the shields, the following plasma blast would rock the ship massively, and if not, tear the shields down. The impact alone would cause massive internal damage to the ship. However, another downside to this was the fact that the Aggressor could only shoot these weapons forwards of it, so it wasn't really very viable if it was outflanked. However, the Aggressor did have one special attack. If the Aggressor ended up on the losing side, the ship had a self-destruct mechanism that, in simple terms, blew up the ship and caused massive damage to any ships that were too close, and often other ships couldn't read the power output from the overcharged reactor before it was too late, and then, well, better see my ship destroyed than seeing it in the hands of my enemy. In simpler terms, if I can't have it, no one shall. Their defensive capabilities were somewhat the same as a Star Destroyer, but once again, I would say maybe slightly stronger shields than slightly weaker armor. I'd say that once again, we don't really have very much info on them. A major pain, but nevertheless true. The Aggressor class is also very narrow up and along half of the ship from front to middle, and even when its wings are coming along the middle section and out the back, the ship is still presenting a very small silhouette, which no doubt works in its favor, as the Home 1 is very cylindrical and much easier to hit. In a way, you could call the Home 1 fat. The other downside to this massive gun though, is that it takes a long time for the reactor in the ship to muster up enough power to fire these massive blasts. However, used correctly, it's simply put, amazing. When it comes to firepower, we can twist and turn it in several ways. Because of the way it looks right now, these two ships are evenly matched, although for different reasons. The Aggressor has to keep the Home 1 in front of it in order to edge out over the Home 1. However, that is one pro over too many cons. Compared to the Home 1 has too many pros going along for it, and so it is much more versatile, which definitely makes it more viable in a random combat scenario, whereas the Aggressor class is too specialized and too dependent on other ships to protect its flanks. Since this is only a one-on-one, then the ship will come out short in this category, and so the Home 1 will get the edge in offensive and defensive capabilities. And now for the verdict. While this match is nowhere near easy to call, it is not the hardest that I've ever had to call. However, that doesn't make it easy, so please let me elaborate. And I'll add that this battle will in no way be easy for any of the parties involved, so I will have to divide this battle in two. So, if the Home 1 can manage to stay closer to the Aggressor class, there is a chance that it may get hit a single time or two. And while that no doubt will do some serious damage, that also means that it is a much bigger chance at staying on the flanks of the Aggressor, and so that means that the huge guns of the Aggressor will basically be useless, and the Home 1 can easily take it down. However, if these two are meeting up on a distance and both are front-facing, then it's another story entirely. Then the Aggressor class would have the edge, and while I'm confident that the Home 1 could evade a few of the blasts, it couldn't go on like that forever. Now, fortunately for the Home 1, the Aggressor class takes a long time to charge up its weapons to fire again. However, even with this, the Home 1 can win. However, slightly if the commanding officer on the Home 1 plays it smart. I'm thinking that this battle will play out as usual, with the ships meeting up far away from each other and closing the distance. Both commanding officers will be of equal skill, and this battle is purely how I think it would turn out. As I said before, these two ships are moving closer by each second, and because the Aggressor has this huge cannon, it is already now charging up its reactor so it can fire. However, they are picking up massive energy readings on the Home 1 from the Aggressor, and while that does cause some concern, they think it is because they are charging up their systems on the Aggressor. However, their energy readings keep going up. The Home 1 then takes all the power away from its weapons and diverts it to the engines, giving the engines a real massive boost. At this point, the Aggressor class fires its massive ion cannon first, and then a split second later comes the massive plasma blast. As the Home 1 is fast and maneuverable as it is, it evades the two, however slowly moving, massive and devastating blasts. However, it was fairly close. Now it takes the time for the Aggressor to fire again, however its two turbo lasers are starting to fire as well. Realizing this, the Home 1 puts up all the power that previously went to its weapons back again and begins firing with its superior targeting systems. The ship then fires upon the top of the massive cannons with all of its turbo lasers and ion cannon batteries, while the Aggressor class does take some damage and the shields aren't super strong. Then the Home 1 quickly does manage to hit it hard. However, that is when the Aggressor class is ready to fire again, and it does, while the Home 1 still flies all that it can without the extra power to the engines from the weapons. And so, as the Aggressor class shoots, it hits the Home 1 directly on the side and takes the shield down to about 50% of the normal capacity, and then another 30% because of the massive plasma blast. The Home 1 has taken some serious damage to its shields, however the ship is still whole, albeit a bit shaken. However, it keeps firing because the shields of the Aggressor is just about down, and with all this the Home 1 can finally take the shields down of the Aggressor and shoot directly into the massive ion cannon, hoping to destabilize it. However, then the ion cannon is about to fire, and as that happens, the Home 1 fires another volley right into it, and the ion cannon blows itself. However, the massive plasma blast still comes out and strikes the Home 1 yet again another time, tearing through some of its shields and ripping deeply into the ship, leaving a massive hole and half of its firepower gone. With that, the Home 1 crew now decides to fire on the plasma cannon. The commanding officer is like, "Blast it! Why didn't we shoot the plasma cannon first?" The top officer of the Home 1 says in regret over the fact that the Home 1 took such a massive and nasty blow. However, now it was not the time for that, and they had to keep firing at each other. The Aggressor with its two extra turbo lasers apart from its massive weapons, and Home 1 with about half of its firepower still left, since the rest is either destroyed or disabled. With that, the Aggressor class tries to fire again. However, as the massive plasma blast charges up, it blows the entire nose off of the ship, and the explosion sends shockwaves that damage the Home 1 even further. As the Home 1 is far too close, and the crew of the Aggressor decides that there is only one thing left to do. They initiate the self-destruct mechanism and charges up the reactor. However, at first the Home 1 doesn't pick up any readings, but the commanding officer of the Home 1 has a bad feeling, and then the readings of the Aggressor class pops up on the Home 1 screen and it glows red and alarms are going. They instantly take the power away from all the weapons and accelerate the Home 1 to get away, and while the Home 1 does get pretty far away, it doesn't take long before the Aggressor class blows up, sending massive shockwaves that also strike the Home 1 hard, to the extent that a massive piece of its wing section is broken off. This battle is won by the Home 1, however it is too devastated and beyond repair. With this, the Home 1 has won the battle. However, it has barely enough power to send a distress call to the Rebel Alliance, though it does manage. Shortly after, a rescue team of another Mon Calamari cruiser arrives. The battle is won, however, at what cost? The MC80 Home 1 can't be repaired, and its crews are evacuated, and then it is left alone as nothing but a massive lump of space debris. You could say that this battle is won, however, when you think about it, at what cost, it almost hurts. This is, however, only how I think it will mainly turn out. Please leave your comments and future video suggestions down below, and I really hope you enjoyed. May you all have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are in the wide galaxy, and please don't forget to use your anger and hatred to destroy that subscribe button. And don't forget to check out some of my other videos as well. Now, may the force be with you, always.